Okay guys, so I didn't want to talk about the Cleopatra documentary anymore because it sucked so bad. However, things just got a lot worse for Netflix, so I thought it was only right that I talked about this. So as we know, the Cleopatra documentary didn't open to very stellar reviews from both critics and the public, and a lot of that was down to the fact that they made all these wild claims without showing any bit of evidence behind what they were actually saying.
I imagine her to have curly hair like me and a similar skin color.
I remember my grandmother saying to me, I don't care what they tell you in school, Cleopatra was black.
Also, along with them making these ridiculous claims, they didn't include any actual Egyptians or real archaeologists in the documentary. They just had a bunch of American people talking about Egypt and changing Egypt's whole history without any say from anyone from Egypt. Not even to mention Greece, where Cleopatra was actually from, or Italy, who they also mention when they talk about Pompeii and Caesar. And because of this, Egypt are suing Netflix, and we knew that much so far. But where it actually gets worse is the fact that Egypt are now making their own documentary about Cleopatra, where they make a point of saying that they're going to show real evidence that proves Cleopatra wasn't black and was actually from Greece, unlike what the Netflix documentary did as well. They said they want to preserve their own history, they want to preserve their own culture, and they were tired of Netflix and other countries talking about their own history without them having a say, so they're actually making their own documentary. They're also going to include real researchers and real archaeologists who have dug up the tombs of Cleopatra and many other pharaohs. So if anyone knows what they're talking about, one, it's the Egyptians, and two, it's the actual archaeologists who dug up the tomb of Cleopatra. And those archaeologists are coming out against Netflix saying that everything they say is wrong, and that all those historians and archaeologists that they apparently have in their documentary are lying through their teeth, and clearly they are because they have no evidence to support what they were saying. But what makes the whole thing worse was that Jada Pinkett Smith came out and said that the whole point of the Netflix series she's doing with them is to shed light on dominant black queens in history. However, the first season of this series they're doing, where they're meant to be talking about great black female leaders, they don't talk about a great black female leader. They talk about a female leader who co-led with her brother who wasn't even black. She was Greek, she was from Greece. However, they just changed her ethnicity and changed her color to fit into the documentary that they're talking about. And what makes this worse is the fact that they wanted to do this documentary to try and preserve the names and to shed light on great black female leaders, because Jada Pinkett Smith said no one talks about female black leaders. No one talks about the great black queens of history, and she said that really annoys her. However, they didn't even talk about a great black female leader. I can't drill this in her head anymore because this is so ridiculous. By them saying that they don't have names, that it's really disrespectful that they don't talk about these black female leaders, but then clearly don't talk about a black female leader because they won't make any money from it because no one knows who they are. They just go and talk about Cleopatra and make her black. It is actually so backward and so racist when you think about it, because what they were really saying with this first season of the documentary is saying that no black female leader is even important enough to warrant a Netflix documentary, so they just changed the ethnicity of Cleopatra because everyone knows who she is. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, and it couldn't get any worse for Netflix now that they've completely destroyed their reputation with all documentary making and all filmmaking for that matter, in the middle of them losing millions of subscribers because people don't want to keep paying the ridiculous fees for crappy movies, because you could just go and be a subscriber to Disney Plus, you can be a subscriber to Paramount Plus, and now that these studios all have their own streaming network, Netflix is kind of just pointless. And a lot of people are removing their subscriptions, and Netflix are actually losing money. So in the midst of all of this, they choose to completely destroy their own reputation. I don't think it can get even worse for Netflix. And on top of them losing so much money because people are taking away the subscriptions, they're also getting sued by the whole country of Egypt. So I don't know how much money it's going to cost them to pay for lawyers, to pay for all the people involved in this lawsuit, not to mention the fact that they're definitely going to lose the lawsuit because they said Cleopatra was black when she wasn't. This is so bad for Netflix, and they're going to lose so much money. I don't even know how they're going to dig themselves out of this hole. It's only going to get worse. And what what makes it even worse is the fact that the main actress came out and called the whole country of Egypt racist.
The level of threat that you must feel just on my skin tone to file a lawsuit against an entire streaming service, that to me is really extreme. It's a really extreme reaction, and it's 100% fundamentally rooted in racism.
And I touched on this in my previous video, but Netflix have remained silent. And that is so disrespectful because Netflix clearly didn't tell the actress to say this. She just said it in an interview. So Netflix could have come out and said, we don't condone what she said, we don't support what she said, we have full respect for Egypt, and actually apologize for what she said, yet Netflix have remained silent. So by doing that, they basically say they agree with her. So not only is the actress from this crazy documentary calling all of Egypt racist, but Netflix are calling all of Egypt racist. So it only gets worse from here. It only gets worse for Netflix, and I don't see them winning out of any situation here. And I am so glad that Egypt are actually taking their own history into their hands, and I hope this sets precedent for a lot of other countries where their history gets completely manipulated by countries like America and big companies like Netflix. So I'm super happy Egypt are making their own documentary with real facts and real archaeologists to prove their own history. That just makes me so happy, and I hope everyone here goes out and watches that documentary, and I know I for sure will be watching it and will be supporting it because it's doing what a documentary should do, which is document reality. Unlike Netflix, who choose to just combine Game of Thrones with Egyptian culture and just race swap everyone like they're telling a remake of Lord of the Rings, when in reality, they're talking about actual history, actual people who lived, where there are real statues showing Cleopatra looking like this, and they say she looks like this. I mean, this just gets so bad, it's so ridiculous, and my final thought, my final nail in the coffin against this horrible documentary is the fact that the whole thing opens up with a line where the narrator says there was a time in history where women ruled with unparalleled power. I mean, I'm sorry, they're talking about one woman who co-ruled with her brother, and yes, she had power over Egypt, but it's not a time in history where women ruled with unparalleled power. And let's say we actually flip it, because we could. There actually was a time in history where we could say there was a time in history where men ruled with unparalleled power. I don't think that would go down too well, so I don't know why they thought starting off a documentary that was already controversial by saying that there was a time where women ruled with unparalleled power. I don't see how that made any sense, how they thought that could go down and work, and if the roles were reversed, I don't think it would go down too well. So I'm going to leave it at that. This is the last video that I'm going to use to talk about Cleopatra and this horrible documentary. I hope none of you guys watch it. This is horrible. This is insane. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. As always, I'll see you on my next video.